Good morning or afternoon to the students of Emerson University in the Leadership and Team Development class for the winter of 2020 and Dr. Sanchez. My name is Hope Rembert, and today I will be walking you through my graduate research projects focusing on impacts of transformational leadership and its effects on employee psychological well-being. I hope you enjoy this presentation, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. For today's agenda, we will begin with an overview of transformational leadership. We will then move into defining employee psychological well-being, specifically around mistreatment climates, ethical climates, and climates of teamwork. Next, we will move into two different case studies around transformational leadership. Then we will go into transformational leadership in teams, including team interactions and social supportive interactions, leadership roles in teams, and relationship mediators. Then we will move into implications on the 21st century workforce, finally concluding with suggestions and limitations. So what is transformational leadership? Transformational leadership, as defined by Bass, Avolio, and colleagues, is composed of four dimensions. The first of these, idealized influence, refers both to the characteristics that follows attribute to the leader, as well as behavior the leader engages in related to being a role model and doing the right thing. A leader with strong values who also acts in accordance with these will score highly on this dimension. The second dimension, inspirational motivation, relates to a broadly communicating a positive vision and holding high expectations. Intellectual stimulation, the third dimension, involves being open to new ways of accomplishing tasks and encouraging others to be creative in their thinking. Finally, individual consideration, the fourth dimension, focuses on a leader who treats employees as individuals, spends time coaching and developing their skills, cares, and is compassionate. Burns and Bass distinguish between transactional and transformational leadership. Within the former, leadership is viewed primarily as a means of controlling followers' behaviors and eliminating problems by using corrective transactions between leader and subordinate. In contrast, transformational leaders communicate a collective vision and inspire followers to look beyond their self interest for the good of the group. Burns' ideas on transactional and transforming leadership in politics were later taken up by Bass and applied to the study of leadership behaviors in organizations. Bass operated the essence of Burns' model into four transformational dimensions: charisma, inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, and individualized consideration, and three transactional dimensions: contingent reward, management by expectation, and laissez faire. With transactions at the root of leadership, a leader exhibiting high levels of transformational leadership behaviors does not forego transactional leadership behaviors, but rather augments or builds on these transactions with transformational behaviors. So, why transform? Well, transformational leadership allows workers to feel connected to their organization. Transformational leaders motivate by increasing self efficacy in followers, by facilitating social identification within a group, and by linking organizational values to follower values. Transformational leaders also inspire great loyalty and trust in their followers. They have high expectations and they inspire their people to reach their goals. Employee well-being has been defined in many different ways. The concept is quite broad, having been conceptualized as including both physical and psychological health, as well as context-free versus context-specific aspects of health. Context-specific aspects of employee well-being, such as job satisfaction, have been summarized in other published works. Psychological well-being may be conceptualized as subjective well-being and deals with emotions that employees experience, perceive mental health, or reports of psychosomatic symptoms. Irritation can be defined as a state of mental exhaustion resulting from a perceived goal discrepancy. Transformational leadership explicitly aims at reducing goal discrepancies by providing attractive visions and by conveying hope and confidence that expectations can be fulfilled. Research has shown that irritation mediates the positive relationship between stressors and psychosomatic symptoms as well as depression. Furthermore, irritation is a sensitive indicator of emotional and cognitive strain, and therefore best suited to capture slight deviances from normal well being. This is relevant for most common employees because irritation is not only an indicator of mental strain, but also a precursor regarding more serious health complaints, making the concept and the assessment useful for early practical interventions. Deviance in the workplace can be costly for both organizations and individuals. Workplace deviance refers to employees' volatile behavior that violates significant organizational norms and threatens the well being of the organization or its members. Examples of deviance include taking company property and services for personal use, discussing confidential information with unauthorized people, or acting rudely towards someone at work. Some deviant behaviors, according to behavioral ethics literature, may also be considered unethical. One reason for employees' deviant behavior at work is a loss of or threat to one's resources as a result of job stressors. Job stressors are environmental conditions and demands at work that tax individuals. Examples include the organizational politics, red tape, and role ambiguity, which can lead to the destruction of employee psychological well-being. Fortunately, job stressors are endemic to work organizations and often cannot be easily eliminated, leaving their link to workplace deviance a potent problem. As shared perceptions among group members of what is prioritized in a work setting, organizational climates direct workers' behavior and are linked consistently with group performance across a variety of organizational domains. Yet, the climates that are perpetualized in a given group or organization are not always congruent or harmonious with the broader context in which they are embedded, potentially limiting the extent to which some climates are able to drive group performance. Incongruence between climate and context may arise when a unit establishes controlling, bureaucratic policies and procedures in contexts where employees' work requires flexibility and creativity, or when a multinational corporation force fits its individualistic goals and expectations. In these scenarios and scores of others, incongruence between a climate, whether at the team or organizational level, and its broader context is likely to hinder the climate's effectiveness because the message a climate communicates to employees may be contradicted by the environment in which the climate operates. On the other hand, when a climate is congruent with context in which it is embedded, it should facilitate a greater impact on climate relevant behavior related to a context incongruent climate within teams. A recent meta-analysis investigated 36 independent samples with a total of 91,950 employees to examine the relationship between workplace mistreatment climates, including aggression and bullying, and various employee and organizational outcomes. They found that psychological mistreatment climates significantly correlated with mistreatment reduction efforts, increased emotional and physical strains, and poor job attitudes. My thesis for this project was transformational leadership plays a vital role on the impact of hourly employee psychological well-being in regards to burnout and confidence and fostering teamwork within warehousing industry. Given the popularity of this leadership theory in both academics and with practitioners, determining the relationship between transformational leadership and employee psychological well-being is very important. Transformational leadership does not uniformly predict all aspects of employee psychological well-being. One reason for this may be definition and measurement of the outcome. Another plausible reason may be that there are various paths through which leadership may be associated with various forms of employee well-being. The work context can play a crucial role for how we feel. Supervisory leadership is one important work context factor that affects every aspect of employees' experiences at work. Leader behavior not only aims on enhancing employees' effectiveness, motivation, and satisfaction, but also impacts their health and well-being. As a result, supervisory leadership can determine various indicators of employee well-being, including sickness and absence. Thus, specific leader behaviors and certain leadership styles are of great importance for employees' health. Certain leadership styles may be either stressful or positive, which in turn could lead to different levels of stress and states of effective well-being amongst employees. Furthermore, leaders may positively influence employees' perceptions of working characteristics, which could lead to a lower perceived stress. In line with this, contemporary research has further demonstrated that positive leader behavior characterized by consideration and support is associated with lower levels of stress, resulting in better effective well-being of the employees. Specifically, transformational leadership, as one particular leadership style, was found to correlate with positive employee health outcomes. In addition, transformational leadership also encourages employees to go above and beyond a call of duty, which increases employees' job demands, enhances exhaustion and cynicism, and attenuates the basically positive relationship between transformational leadership and employee health and well being. When managers are perceived as role models for health, employees might be more able to meet task demands, to face new challenges by being aware of their own health without performing over their limits and exhausting themselves. A study conducted by students at the University of Ottawa School of Psychology explores the role of social climate on leadership, self efficacy, and transformational leadership development. According to Murphy and Johnson, leadership self efficacy is acquired through self assessment of interpersonal success and social interactions, such as setting a direction for the work group and building relationships with followers in order to gain commitment to change. When interpersonal work experiences increase leadership self efficacy, this level of self efficacy becomes an important predictor of behavioral change through improved abilities to regulate one's emotions, motivations, and attitudes. Present studies therefore explore self-efficacy through the self-assessment of interpersonal success in a climate-specific social context. This study applies a unique theoretical lens, self-determination theory, to explore the effects of work-specific climate or leadership potential in order to shed light on the relative importance of the social context. Self-determination theory literature offers considerable empirical, sustained explanations on the relationship between social climate and individual growth. Yet, a fundamental gap that endures is understanding the relationship between social climate and the development of leadership behaviors and leader self-efficacy. In order to minimize a self-selection bias based on leadership interest, the present study was advertised as a study to assess decision making. Upon arrival to the lab, participants were grouped into teams of 3 to 6. A research assistant greeted all participants, collected the consent forms, and asked the participants to wait for the experimenter to explain the next step. When the experimenter entered, the participants were instructed to work together to find a consensus solution for the fallout shelter task, an engaging moral dilemma based on hypothetical World War scenario that offers no objectives or obvious answers. Following the task, the participants were asked to individually complete a questionnaire before being debriefed. The group task and questionnaire were identical across the socially manipulated environmental conditions. The experimenter was specifically trained to deliver one of the three different conditions: behaviorally controlled, psychologically controlled, or supportive basic needs control. The conditions were randomly assigned to each session and were equally distributed for the duration of the school semester as well as the time of day. Finally, there was no cameras in the room in order to encourage the participants to act naturally when they were left alone in the room for the group task. Prior to the social manipulation, participants' estimates of their own abilities to play a leadership role were assessed using Singer's self-efficacy expectancies 3-item measure. Participants rated themselves on a likely scale ranging from 1, not at all effective, to 6, almost always effective. Responses were averaged together. Higher scores reflected higher leadership self-efficacy expectancies. The 3 items were included in the questionnaires asking demographic and decision-making questions as to not to reveal the real purpose of the study to the participants before the group task. Following the manipulation, peer-assessed transformational leadership behaviors were surveyed. Transformational leadership behaviors displayed by each participant during the group task were assessed by 2 of their peers using the 7-item Transformational Leadership Global Scale. Participants were assigned a computer number and they evaluated their peers after the group task according to their computer numbers. Every participant evaluated two peers in their group, so each participant's score was formed by the evaluation of two other participants. A measure of group satisfaction was included to tap into a more distal outcome. This measure permitted moving beyond looking at leadership in order to get a sense of group outcomes. Participant satisfaction toward the group was assessed using three criteria: satisfaction for the solution, satisfaction with the group's decision-making process, and satisfaction with the working climate. Survey results overall concluded that the social climate manipulation had the desired effect on the participants' perceptions of the three interpersonal approaches displayed by the experimenter. Levels of reported autonomy and the supportive basic needs conditions were higher than behavioral control or psychological control conditions. These results supported the hypothesis of this study, which also correlates the theory that transformational leadership displays a positive effect on group decision making and goal attainment. A study conducted by students at the business school at Aston University was created to show the positive effects of transformational leadership and employee thriving, how thriving is negatively related to employee burnout, and how thriving mediates the negative effect of transformational leadership on employee burnout. This study focuses on openness to experience, one of the 5 factors that form the structure of personality. As openness to experience is viewed as the personality trait most relevant to learning and is aligned with transformational leadership and thriving in its focus on flourishing and growth. Individuals high on openness to experience can be described as curious, creative, imaginative, and unconventional, and are open to learning and enjoy it, while their counterparts prefer convention and sticking to routine, such as working in 9 to 5 jobs and on tasks that require little reflection and self assessment and are highly structured. Researchers conducted a study with 2 measurement points at an interval of 2 weeks. Measuring burnout twice while controlling for the initial level of burnout allowed them to reduce the influence of common method bias. Data for this study was obtained from employees of a mid-sized paper box manufacturing company in the south of Germany. Researchers collected questionnaires from 227 employees. Matching of the questionnaires yielded a sample of 148 employees, which was a 65% response rate for all participating employees. Both age and tenure were measured with ordinal scales to ensure participants remained anonymous, and it was requested by the organization. The final sample was predominantly male, and the highest educational achievement of the majority of the participants was a vocational training. Concerning respondents, age 1% was less than 20 years old, 14% were between 20 and 30, 21% were between 31 and 41 years of age, 40% were between 42 and 50 years of age, 22% were between 51 and 60, and 3% were between 61 and 70 years. Concerning tenure, 1% had worked in the company less than 1 year, 10% 1 to 5 years, 20% 6 to 10 years, 32% 11 to 20 years, and 38% more than 20 years. Manufacturing workers who do not have access to a computer during the working hours filled out a paper and pencil questionnaire, while office-based employees completed an online version of the questionnaire. All questionnaires included a cover letter explaining the objective of the study and assuring employees of the confidentiality of their responses and the voluntary nature of their participation. All questionnaires had to be completed within a week. Paper questionnaires were collected at the end of this period by the first investigator. This process was repeated 2 weeks later. To match participant responses across the 2 waves, employees were at both times asked to generate an identifying code. The first wave of data collected included measures of transformational leadership, thriving, burnout, openness to change, and control variables such as narcissism, negative affect, age, and gender. The dependent variable, burnout, was again assessed in the second questionnaire. The results yielded support for the research hypothesis. This was supported with transformational leadership being positive related to thriving. Thriving, in turn, was negatively related to burnout. The findings show that the product of transformational leadership and openness to experience on thriving was significant. These findings further indicated that transformational leadership positively affected thriving when openness to experience was high as compared to low. This suggests that the indirect effect of transformational leadership on burnout via thriving was moderated by openness to experience in such a way that the indirect effect only existed for employees high on openness to experience, ceasing to exist at low values of openness to experience. Limitations of the study included reliance on self-reports, making findings vulnerable to single-source bias. In addition, although large groups of employees shared the same supervisor, the study was not able to collect information on group composition and could therefore not account for variance due to team membership. Lastly, this research is limited in its generability to other industries and countries, as all the data stemmed from one sample from one company. The need to be proactive has become more pressing in today's global work context because anticipating the future and taking action in advance is an approach to mastering change in a complex and uncertain work environment. Consequently, how to promote proactivity at work has become an important topic in organizational behavior research. To date, scholars have devoted a great deal of attention to understanding how to promote proactivity at the individual level. However, being proactive is also relevant for teams. Teams, as work units, are entities for achieving specific tasks, and they can be proactive when they take an active, self starting, and persistent approach toward work at a collective level. Being proactive at the team level is critical because it can help teams to operate effectively to master uncertainty and change. Transformational leaders who tend to effectively motivate followers with inspirational communication can cultivate positive group affective tone or homogeneous positive affective reactions within a team to promote team proactivity. Transformational leaders can shape positive group affective tone via bottom up processes. Transformational leaders tend to motivate and stimulate followers' enthusiasm by providing inspirational talk and emotional appeals. Because leaders have a central position in interacting with followers in their own teams, they are influential persons who can influence team members' effective experiences via an emotional contagion process. They also can elicit followers' positive emotions when followers are implicitly entrained with leaders in communicating positive things in interactions. Transformational leaders also can shape group norms regarding expressing positive emotion and having positive affective reactions within teams, which leads followers, particularly new members, to embrace positive affect at work. In addition, several studies have found that transformational leaders can elicit followers' positive emotions and shape positive group affective tone within teams. Positive group affective tone can contribute to team proactivity based on an effect as resources perspective, which suggests that positive effect provides cognitive and behavioral resources to sustain goal regulation activities. Because team proactivity is a goal regulation process in which cognitive and behavioral resources are required to bring about change, it is expected that positive group affective tone can contribute to team proactivity. Specifically, teams with a stronger positive group affective tone will be more open to new information and will tend to generate new ideas to bring about change when they see potential opportunities. This behavior will occur because members in teams with a positive group affective tone are more likely to experience positive effect at work and thus have a higher cognitive flexibility and an ability to see things different. Such cognitive benefits in idea generation and opportunity identification are very likely to occur as positive group affective tone, signaling a positive and enjoyable environment in which team members will have higher willingness to share their ideas and exchange information with other team members. Supporting this view, positive group affective tone has been positively linked to team creativity. Transformational leadership has a positive association with positive group affective tone, which in turn helps energize teams to be more proactive. At large, supportive social environments nurture autonomy, a sense of competence, and relatedness, which in turn increases autonomous motivation and self efficacy in followers. In addition, such supportive environments are associated with increased productivity, creativity, and perseverance. Implications to the 21st century workplace. Effective leadership is the most critical factor for organizational success in the 21st century. We live in a world where transformation happens constantly, and leadership styles that don't accept and work with the fact simply won't be as effective as they once were in earlier eras. Companies that want to continue to grow need to embrace transformational leadership. In a service based economy, such as warehousing, you don't just want employees to bring their hands to work anymore. Now, you need them to bring their minds and hearts as well. Leaders of the future must be willing to be transformed as well, meaning to learn and to grow from those they lead. Successfully leading lasting change in any organization is more complicated than ever before. Mastering the art of organizational transformation is a necessity in today's more volatile, uncertain, and complex global landscape. The workplace has become more digital, more diverse, and more reliant on advanced technology, yet, most organizations and their leaders have yet to understand how to leverage these new opportunities for increased efficiency and agility, including transformational leadership. With four generations in the workplace, leaders must adapt and modify their leadership style in order to maintain employee engagement and, in return, meeting the success of organizational goals. In conclusion, transformational leadership is an essential element in the warehouse industry, as its effects on employee psychological well being can boost confidence through motivation and communication, as well as decrease employee burnout through thriving. With such a diverse workforce across all industries, not just warehousing, change and agility are essential strategies that leaders have to start preparing for now. Change has been in recent years and will continue to be on the horizon for many years to come. Transformational leaders can help guide successful organizational changes, but leaders must act now. Suggestions. While transformational leaders should naturally be aware of their employees' needs and hence not overwhelm low openness to experienced followers with extremely challenging tasks, transformational leaders might have to be made aware in leadership trainings how to best manage low openness to experienced employees to significantly increase their thriving and reduce their burnout. As research shows that individuals value resources such as transformational leadership differently, I suggest that future leadership research should take a more follower-centric approach when investigating the effects of leadership on employee outcomes. Given the positive impact of transformational leaders in the workforce, school, and communities, future research is deemed necessary to understand how to fashion social climates which fosters transformational leadership and leadership self-efficacy to advance and support succession planning and training to the next generation leaders. Limitations. Employee psychological health and well-being and relationships with personal resources are still far less studied criteria in leadership research. Transformational leadership lacks conceptual clarity. Because it covers such a wide range of activities and characteristics, it is difficult to define exactly the parameters of transformational leadership. Researchers have not established that transformational leaders are actually able to transform individuals and organizations. There is evidence that indicates that transformational leadership is associated with positive outcomes. However, studies have not clearly established a causal link between transformational leaders and its changes in followers or organizations. That is the end of my presentation today. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for listening. And again, please reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.